Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Triangle Offense. I'm Munish, and as always, I'm joined by Nishant, and we're just 1 week away from the start of the NBA season. The preseason is very much underway, and a lot of teams have been making a lot of inroads. We got a lot of analysis on how the teams are faring. We know that the Clippers are not going to do well another season. We know that the Lakers are strong even without LeBron and AD. Luca and Giannis went head to head, and Luca came out on top both times, at least in terms of the team.
Yeah.
We'll talk all about that. We'll talk about Zion Williams, and he made quite an impact on his preseason debut. And it was his preseason debut because he didn't have a preseason last time. We'll talk all about that and a lot more on today's episode. Hey Nishant, what's up? What's happening? Did you get to watch any of the games?
Yeah, I watched some of them. I do have a backlog, but really, Zion didn't play even a single game last season in
Well, he
preseason.
was injured, right? He was injured before the start of the season, and then he
Wow.
debuted only in December or something like that. And
Yeah, yeah,
then
yeah.
so yeah, I don't have a confirmation on that, but my best guess is that he did not play a
Yeah,
preseason
I
last
mean,
year.
if we don't remember, then even if he did play, I don't think he did anything special, did he? Now, because if Zion plays and you don't remember, then well, there you go. But
Right.
yeah, I saw some of the games. Mighty impressed with. Uh, I think it's a mixed bag, right? So you have some veterans or let's just say established players, young ones and old, and you've come to expect a certain level of excellence from these guys. And uh, Giannis came out, showed up, didn't disappoint. Luca came out, showed up, didn't disappoint. Kyrie to an extent, right? And then you have some superstars that were either chilling or didn't really go all out. They're kind of pacing
Hmm.
themselves. The Clippers boys, the Lakers big two didn't even play. You have some of that. And then you have the high expectation youngsters that have something to prove. And I'm looking at Ja Morant, who looked spectacular.
Yep.
Zion, who looked mighty impressive,
Yep.
as he's always done. Whenever he's been fit and he's played, it's special. Um, and also some of the sort of hitherto unknown rookies like Talon Horton Tucker has been a revelation.
Yeah.
I know it's preseason, so I'm not going to oversell it, but it's been pretty interesting to watch the number of ways in which he scored. Um, and also interesting pieces like Kelly Oubre and how do these guys fit into their new teams.
Hmm.
That's been something to look out for. And rounding it up rather neatly, don't you think, is all of the comeback kids that we spoke about, right? Like Blake Griffin's back on the court and
Right.
KD's back, and they've all looked to various degrees a little rusty. But it's just great
Hmm.
to have them back on the floor and players of that caliber. You know the rustiness isn't going to last.
Absolutely. KD's restiness lasted like what, 30, 40 seconds. He got the ball on the
Yeah,
left, was free, went and dunked for a
yeah.
return. What a return to the NBA. And how did KD look? He played around 20 minutes, got around 18 points, 15 points, a few dunks here and there, a few blocks. How did KD look for you? Because he's, I think, the biggest name returning along with Steph Curry.
Yeah,
So how did he look?
yeah.
Does he make Nets look invincible this season? I don't think invincible, but are they pretty strong enough?
Well, on paper, of course he does, and we've already known this. How did he look in the game? I want to say rusty, but then I
Hmm.
think a large part of that is also that he was holding back. I don't think players generally go all out in these preseason games. He looked fine. He looked just fine, but not the spectacular KD that we're used to seeing. But that's fine. Even if we don't get that in the first few regular season games, I think fans should
Hmm.
be more than willing to wait it out. I think the first thing is to just get him back on the court, get a regular run of games in, build that fitness up a bit. That's got to be the first priority for his team, and I assume that's what they'll go with, even if it means a minutes restriction for the first two games, right? That's
Hmm.
fair. And once we're sure of the fitness, the game's always going to come back. You can't shoot like KD and then forget how to shoot like KD. That just doesn't happen. Some of the physicality might wane over time, but the core skill never. I mean, you look at Jerry West at age 80, he's still shooting. You ask him to shoot free throws, it's the same form, it's the same flawless swish every time, right? So I don't think anyone's too worried about that. Like everyone should just be hoping to see KD first just build up a certain level of fitness and just get a regular run of games in. And we know he's back. And if the team's ambitions are anything like the fans' expectations, they're looking at the chip, and
Hmm.
which pretty much means they're in it for the long run.
Yeah, if we talk about KD, we definitely need to talk about Kyrie.
Hmm.
Yes, he's gone and spoken to the media, so hopes of getting him on a podcast soon. But he's brilliant on court. Like his ball handling skills is next to none, I would say.
Second to none. Yeah.
And yeah, he got 18 points, got a few 3 pointers, looked like the Kyrie that we know. Uh, this team is gonna. I mean, like we spoke about it in the past, if they don't reach the conference finals and probably the NBA finals, it's going to be a disappointing year for them, given that the talent that they have on their ranks. But my question is, how good did Kyrie look, and who's going to defend for the Nets? Because both of these guys, KD, I don't know if he'll be as strong on defense this season because he's
Right.
returning from injury.
Yeah.
Kyrie is not really a great defender, but who's going to defend? They all their guys, Spencer Dinwiddie, they got to play Jarrett Allen. I feel over DeAndre Jordan, but we'll see. But before that, how it's Kyrie?
Again, Allen over Jordan again is another defensive. He's okay. I'm not really going to count him among the better defenders in the league, right? And I don't think that should be their primary area of concern, because especially given the conference that they're in, defense will only really start mattering once you get to the playoffs. I think in the regular season you will get by just fine without elite defense all around. And yeah, this team not making even the conference finals would be worse of a disappointment, even more of a disappointment than the Clippers not doing it last season. Not sure if they'll get trolled quite the same way because they don't have playoff P making tall claims and stuff. But yeah, it would be nothing short of disastrous if they don't make the conference final and they have all of their players fit. If they get hit by injuries, well, I mean, you can't really help that. I think with this team, at least this season, until they get to the playoffs, it's just got to be, can you figure out how to get your offense firing on all cylinders? Can you figure out who's your third best scorer and how does that rotation work? How do you distribute the ball, or is it isolation all night long? If you're going to distribute the ball, who's your primary ball handler? If it's Kyrie, is the ball going to get distributed, right? I think all of these permutations and combinations, how do you bring Dinwiddie in? Does he start? Does he come off the bench? How does Caris LeVert fit into the offense? I think these are bigger questions to be asked than the defensive schemes. They've got Steve Nash, a first-time head coach, who wasn't ever a great defender by any stretch. And they've got D'Antoni somewhere in those ranks. So I don't know if defense is really going to be a priority.
Well, if you score 140 every game and concede 125, 130, that's fine.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I think that's really what they're looking at, which isn't unlike, by the way, the Denver Nuggets strategy, because as flashy as that, they don't really have a great defense, and they got further depleted when they lost Jeremy Grant. Not a very great team on defense. And the Denver mantra is essentially that team is so ridiculously loaded on offense with the number of weapons and options they have, and the ability of multiple key players on the team to find the right pass at the right time. I think their strategy is pretty much similar, which is score 1 point more than the opponents and don't really worry about limiting their score.
Yeah, talking about not limiting the score, Steph Curry made a return. He had limited minutes restrictions.
Of course.
He looked really scratchy. He looked scratchier than Kevin Durant for sure. But while he was on the court, he was entertaining. Like, not just with his passes and all, even when he was on the sidelines on the bench, he was just cheering up the entire team, and he actually motivated them to win over Denver Nuggets themselves. Before that, he went into the stands and shot a 3-pointer. So I guess he's not too worried about the crowds not being there. It gives him more room to shoot those balls. But Steph Curry was brilliant. I think he'll play a little more, few more minutes when he plays Sacramento Kings tomorrow. But super excited about this. How did the Warriors look for you?
Yeah, just Steph Curry back just as a talisman, as a figure that the squad really looks up to. It is his franchise. It has always been that, something that probably irked Kevin Durant quite a bit. But it's always been Steph Curry's franchise, and it still is. And just having him back, knowing that he can suit up and show up on the court, that itself has got to be such a huge boost to the morale of not just the rookies and the young ones like Looney and Eric Pascal, but also for the vets like Draymond. It must be good to, after having spent a year just tanking and being disastrous and miserable and getting called out for triple singles, must be good to have his superstar back on court, even if he's got only one of them back. So just that impact is going to be huge. And again, a lot of figuring out to do. It's going to be a different kind of offense because of the pieces that they have available to them. It's not quite going to be the pop off from anywhere kind of offense that they had when they had Steph, Clay, and KD on court. So a lot of figuring out to do, but they've got a great coach. If anyone can do what he can. And I'm really interested to see how this offense plays out. What are some of their schemes going to be, and how are they going to distribute scoring and the offensive load and the roles within that setup, right? Because this 1 to 5 of Steph Curry, Kelly Oubre Jr., Andrew Wiggins, Draymond, and Wiseman, which I assume is their strongest
Mm-hmm.
five, with Pascal coming off of the bench. It's an intriguing lineup. I'm really looking forward to what these guys can put together on offense. It's also going to be a very interesting challenge for Steph Curry, who might have to modify his game a bit to bring more people into the offense. Not that he's not capable of doing it, he's always been a willful passer. But it's interesting to see how all of these pieces kind of meld together.
Yeah, and then they beat the conference finalists, Denver Nuggets as well. So
Yeah, it's
kind of give
preseason, man.
or don't take into it too seriously.
Yeah, it's preseason. Who cares? I mean, a 19, 20-year-old rookie that barely ever played for the Lakers
Uh-huh.
took on Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and beat them both times. The second time was a blowout. Is that something that's even remotely possible in the regular season? Absolutely not. With AD and LeBron sitting out, no way he'll get butchered by those two. But it happened. It's the preseason. Right? I mean, relax. All the big guys are just kind of trying to get back on shape, just get on the court, get some minutes under their wings. So I won't really put too much emphasis on
Mhm.
outcomes.
Yeah, but we spoke when we spoke about our MVP awards and all of that. We spoke about Luka and we spoke about Giannis and we spoke about AD as well.
Mhm.
But I think we're kind of sleeping on Jokic because this guy played 20 minutes. He put on 26 points, 10
Yeah,
rebounds, 11
yeah.
rebounds. He was brilliant in those 20 minutes that he played. He just played 20 minutes, but he got all those numbers like he would for a full game. And he was throwing passes like a quarterback, like we've seen the entire last season. This guy is just getting better and better, and I think he is a real shout for an MVP nomination.
He's the best underdog kind of dark horse bet for an MVP. I'd probably rate him higher than Zion too.
Mm-hmm.
Only because, again, with Zion, the only rider is always fitness. Is he really going to be around that much? And in a team that's still, I mean, they've not even had a regular run of form with all of their starters available. So there's still some piecing together to do. And are you going to keep Ingram got that fat, big contract? Are you not really going to make him a focal point of your offense? Because if he is, when Lonzo's got the ball and he's bringing it up court, he has two entirely different ways in which that offense can go. There's Zion on one end, and there's one kind of offense, and there's Brandon Ingram, and there's a whole different style of play. So, can they bring all of this together? All of these things. So, these are some of the things that might work against Zion to have an MVP season, right? That level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He's going to have a good season if he's fit, of course, he is. Uh, so, in that respect, Jokic is probably the best underdog dark horse bet
Mm-hmm.
because we've never seen anything like LeBron itself was quite a like what a combination. This 6'9" body that can pass like that. It's basically Magic Johnson reborn.
Right.
But we've seen this before, at least in Magic.
Yep.
Jokic, we've never ever seen a near 7-footer pass around like this and have an offensive game. He can punish you in the low post. He can destroy defenders like Harrell if they don't have the size.
Mm-hmm.
Players that have the size, like say a Nurkic, he can crucify with his agility and his passing game. Um, it's kind of like if Shaq and Magic had a baby, as in just Shaq's height and vision, but Magic's ability to pick out the right offensive play. It's a very crude comparison, but it's incredible the combination of skills that Jokic has, and we've really never seen anything like it. He's a point center. It's the first I've seen. Olajuwon could pass a bit and Shaq could pass a bit, but their game was entirely dominant in the paint and low post and all of that stuff. But what Jokic is doing is unprecedented, and if he can string together a run of games and a good winning streak and a plus 600, let's say, or above record, finish anywhere in the top three in the league with the kind of stats and efficiency that he has, I think he'd be in with a good shout. His only problem is Luka Doncic, at least on the sheet, does all that and a whole lot more.
Of course. Since you mentioned Zion, I want to come back to that. Zion Williamson had a amazing game, 26, 11, and 2 as the Pelicans destroyed the
Yeah.
finalist Miami Heat. It didn't look
Yeah.
like Miami Heat were in the finals at all. But of course, they were not a full strength team. Jimmy Butler didn't play. But Zion Williamson and Ja Morant, I think the rivalry has come one season too late. But I think this is going to be one to watch for this season because Morant was spectacular, like you mentioned at the start of the episode. He was brilliant in both the games. They thrashed Timberwolves yesterday. Where do you see this rivalry going? I think it's one to stay if Zion can stay fit.
Yeah, and I love how every year we seem to find this. Every year,
Mhm.
we've had rookie Luca versus rookie Trey Young, and who's the best rookie in the league. And then they took it to the next level as sophomores,
Mhm.
where you had Luca now fully set, looks like an MVP caliber player, and was in fact in the MVP race. Took his team to the playoffs, had a very respectable season, and they come back stronger now. Versus Trey Young, largely individual brilliance, right up there in assists, shooting, all of that, but in a team that was largely inconsequential and they didn't make the playoffs.
Mhm.
But great rivalry, something for years to come. You see something similar now with Zion and Ja Morant this season because the Grizzlies, by no stretch, are they expected to be in the playoff race. It'll be an upset if they feature in the playoff race. Whereas the Pelicans, you'd give them a decent chance of making the
Right.
playoffs, and anything less than making that cut is going to be a disappointing outcome for their season. So again, you have two superstars. One who's largely going to be a solo shine in a team that's going to be inconsequential, and a team, and one guy who's expected to make it to the playoffs and maybe even make a spring a surprise or two in the playoffs.
Mhm.
And again, a rivalry that should last for years to come. I'm just excited about all of the young talent in the league and the rookies too. I mean, when you look at Anthony Edwards and Lamelo Ball's already doing some exciting things there. We've not yet seen the best of James Wiseman. Good times for the NBA.
Absolutely good times. And talking about good times, you can't keep out Luka Doncic out of this conversation because it's a pleasure watching him play because he's just there getting those points, getting the rebounds, assisting his teammates, and then he goes head to head against Giannis, and the Mavs
Yeah.
beat the Bucks both times in both the games.
Yep.
Pretty impressive record.
Hmm.
But both these superstars shining out, standing out, and showing why they are amongst the top three, top five in the league. Luca got 27 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists. Giannis topped that. He got 24 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists. So they're going head to head. We had both our nominations out there performing like they should be performing.
Yeah, I thought for a second there you said, speaking of good times, I thought we were going to talk about Vijay Mallya next, and I was wondering where the show was headed. But um, you had Giannis as your pick, was it, for MVP? And I had Luca, right?
I had Luca as well, but I
Okay.
think that was more because of Giannis winning it 2 times and
Yeah,
people
I'm thinking
getting bored
it's
voting.
tough. Three in a row, especially when you're Giannis, especially when both
Yeah,
those years you went and fizzled out in the playoffs, and the naysayers are only going to get louder. It's going to be tough. It's going to be
yeah.
almost like politics and anti-incumbency that's going to hold him back. But we know Giannis is 25 and 12 guaranteed, maybe even better every single game. But honestly, I don't care. I don't care what
Hmm.
numbers he puts up. I don't care what efficiency. I don't care if they even top the Eastern Conference and make it to the playoffs. We've seen this movie too many times now. The only thing anyone's going to be looking at, with Giannis, is
Hmm.
how does this team look from a playoff perspective? And at the end of the season, are they going to be at least in the Eastern Finals or not? If they're not, that's a problem. That's a
Right.
problem not
So
just for Giannis and how his legacy is going to be viewed, because he has years to build upon that. He's still only 25, 26. It's a bigger problem for the Bucks because is Giannis even going to stay after that?
yeah, exactly. Or even the season. Just putting it out there, not saying anything. Uh, Talking about the teams in the East, are we sleeping on Toronto Raptors
No,
because they came out all guns blazing? They beat the Hornets twice. It's the Hornets, yes,
it's the
but
Hornets, man.
it's the Hornets. But they have a brilliant coach. We saw that. They won the chip a couple of years ago, but they had Kawhi Leonard. You could say that, but they didn't have Kawhi Leonard last year, and they finished second in the league, in the conference.
Yeah.
Uh, they are a team that nobody really considers favorite. It's kind of like the Miami Heat in the West, in the East itself.
Right.
But are we sleeping on Toronto Raptors because they have Lowry and Van Vliet, who are experienced folks who have the experience of winning a chip, and they never featured in our favorite talk and
Yeah.
anyone's favorite talks and top four and all of that. So, is it fair on them?
Yeah,
Are we sleeping on them?
I mean, it's always been a quiet team, even before Kawhi arrived. Quiet to the extent that a lot of people don't even remember that even before Kawhi got there, they were already the one seed in the East. The season before
Right.
that, they were the number one seed. This is before Kawhi got there, right? So they've always been a bit of a quiet team, unassuming, not too many superstar voices there. Even in Kawhi, they found probably the quietest superstar in the league, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where it fits
Yep.
into their culture. I think they got depleted, if anything. This is a
Mm-hmm.
weaker Toronto Raptors for me. Because sure they lost Kawhi and they did pretty well without him. But I'm looking at the following, right? One, They lost a bit more of that defensive grit and strength and some of the low post scoring and stretch five abilities because not only did they lose Mark Gasol, who eventually
Mhm.
went to the Lakers, they also lost Ibaka. Those are big blows. Both
Yep.
ends of the floor, those are blows. So that instantly weakens a team that prided itself on a lot of defensive grit and the ability to switch it up on defense and make adjustments in the playoffs. So that's going to be a blow. Second, Kyle Lowry is not getting any younger. You saw some of that aging last year. You'll see some more of that this season. Father time's undefeated. That's going to
Mhm.
take them back. I love me some Van Fleet, but this is an aging Kyle Lowry. It'll be interesting to see if Siakam can get back to his former self, if Anunoby can chip in. Boucher might get a few more minutes, but this doesn't really have the makings of a team that they might just make the playoffs, but I wouldn't expect much more from this team. This for me is like last season's Orlando Magic. I know it's a harsh,
Oh wow.
uh, but yeah, I really don't expect anything great from Toronto as is. If they add some pieces, I don't know, but I don't see how they're going to add anything. So no, this is a greatly depleted Toronto Raptors side, and I think their ceiling is just about making the playoffs and getting booted out in the first round. Not to mention, all of these depleting forces happen
Mhm.
at a time when the East as a whole is getting stronger. You have Brooklyn Nets, who
Right.
went from 0 to 1 because they weren't even around last season to really be. Well, I mean, they kind of made the playoffs, but they weren't ever
Mhm.
really contenders. You know what I mean? And now they're a force. So that puts some downward pressure from the top. Now the other Washington got stronger.
Yep.
I mean,
Absolutely.
they shouldn't even
Absolutely.
have gone to the bubble, but boy, did they get strong because even if they didn't make the Westbrook trade, if John Wall just came back, that would be strength. But
Mhm.
now they have Russell Westbrook, and you know you'll get box office performance from him at least till the playoffs, and then we'll see. But regular season, for sure, him with Bradley Beal is a fascinating combination.
Right.
Hachimura is a year older. I want to see what he brings to the table.
Mhm.
They extended Bertans, the Latvian
Right.
laser. I want to see what he brings to the table. It's a really interesting team that they've got there. 1 to 5, I think it's an intriguing lineup. So they've
I like
come
their
in.
center as well, Thomas Bryant. He's a
Oh yeah,
big
yeah.
bulky guy. He's dominating. I like him.
Fantasy league much? So
Yes.
yeah, yeah. So that's an interesting team that have beefed up. Miami are going to be back. You've got all of the guys that were there last season, and none of them got any weaker. Indiana's going to be back just as strong. Bucks got
Right.
stronger. Um,
Or did they?
Six, they did. I think they did. At least for the regular season, they did. The
Mhm.
Sixers are going to be back and strong, and if they get James Harden, then God bless them. So it's not going to be any easier in this conference. They might still make it to the playoffs because I can't say I can name with confidence 8 teams that are stronger than them, but
Right.
it's going to get tougher and tougher. And Charlotte, by the way, beefed up. Atlanta got much stronger. It's not. It's not.
Atlanta, yes.
It's not the Eastern Conference anymore. It might still be inferior to the West, but the East got a whole lot more competitive than it was in the past few seasons.
Absolutely. And when we talked about this in the past, we said that the West is stacked up and we have 14 teams who are probably competing. Everyone
It
except
is.
Sacramento Kings is competing
Yeah.
for a playoff spot.
Well,
And we're saying that
13. Like Spurs should, I think, be put in that same bucket as Sacramento.
true that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And in the East, we're saying that everyone got stronger, that which means that we have great basketball to look forward to. And
Mhm.
we have like 20, 22 strong teams out of the 30, right? Except everyone, you could consider everyone except the Knicks, Detroit Pistons, Chicago Bulls, probably, and the
Ouch.
Cleveland Cavaliers to probably make a run for the playoffs. And now that they have 10 spots to fight for, not just 8. So
Correct.
it's going to be an interesting season. It's going to
Yeah.
be an interesting start to the season because all the big games are stacked up right at the start. The opening day fixtures and the Christmas fixtures.
Classic
Looking
NBA.
forward to talking all of that with you. But that's all I have for you on today's episode. It was great talking this. And for guys who are listening, if you've not checked out yet, you should check out our previous episode. We had a special guest on the show. Jared Kimber was on. He spoke about Denver Nuggets and all of that. It was a fun talk. Go check that out if you haven't already. And that's all for today.
Yeah, we'll have part 2 of that episode coming out on Saturday.
Absolutely.
All right, man. Just take care.
Bye.
Bye.